What's up, everybody? This is Chris Nichols, and you're listening to an episode of the Nichols&Dimez Show featuring Dominique Bell. Enjoy. What's up, Dom?
What's up, Chris?
Dude, thanks for being over here, man. It's good. I'm stoked to do this pod with you.
For sure. Me too, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, guys, let me give a quick intro on Dominique real quick. So, Dominique Bell, he's an accomplished Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo athlete and coach, widely known in the sport for his online courses and instructional tutorials. His home gym is Atos Jiu-Jitsu headquarters and is a black belt under Andre Galvao, having won multiple gold medals in the biggest stages in grappling. Dom previously served in the U.S. Army. He's from Fort Myers, Florida, and is based out of San Diego. So, man, dude, we got connected through my current jiu-jitsu coach, Nico, who you've trained with at Atos, right? And I've recently gotten into the sport, and I've just fallen in love with it this year.
As that happens, that does tend to happen.
Yeah, right? And, you know, a lot of it is because of the community I've met in jiu-jitsu, especially since I've come to San Diego over the past few years. But it's some of the best people I've met.
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
Yeah, and I've just noticed that. And even just meeting you, somebody who's so far along and accomplished in this sport and so well known, just the interaction I've had with you has really resonated and just validated that I've had.
Oh, well, I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean it, man. And not to mention, I've followed your tutorials and they're super helpful. They're some of the best I've come across online.
Sick. That makes me good. Feel good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But dude, seriously, thank you for doing this with me. I think what's cool about this podcast is I'm kind of all over the map. It's an entrepreneurship focused podcast. So we're going to talk about your journey, you know, who you are and why you've become successful in what you're doing today. Of course, your career as an athlete, but also really dig into the business side a bit. Like basically, how do you make money as a, you know, with your online presence, with your instructionals and everything, sponsors. So I'm stoked to learn about that with you, but I think a good place to start would be, what was life like growing up for you in Florida? Like, what made you who you are today?
Oh, that's a good question. Life was, I grew up in Fort Myers, Florida. And there it was my mom, single parent. Yeah. And then me and my three sisters, me being the oldest. And it was pretty hard. It was pretty hard. We were very, very poor. We were very, very poor. We lived in very like crime-ridden, poor, violent neighborhoods. A lot of my memories from childhood were avoiding like being outside of my house or like trying to like detach myself from what was going on around me. I spent a lot of time in the library. Really? A lot of time in the library. Not reading. I was playing like video games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was playing like MMOs and stuff.
But it sounds like from a young age you knew to avoid that scene.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I had a few like parental figures in my life that kind of were like a refuge from, you know, my home environment. Yeah. My stepmom, I call her my stepmom, but she's the mother of my dad had kids with another partner. And those two kids are like, I consider my brothers. They're like half brothers.
I see.
And their mom is my stepmom. I call her my stepmom. And so like, she would kind of like, you know, take me away from a young age and just kind of like be watching me and taking care of me. My grandparents, my grandparents made a really strong effort to raise me Mormon. Really? Yeah.
And so was this your mom's or your dad's side?
This was my mom's side. Yeah. I don't know any of my dad's side. Okay. I've had them reach out and try to connect with me, and I just haven't really. Yeah. Other than my grandfather on that side, I haven't really like connected with anybody on that side. But this is from my mom's side, and just bringing me to church, getting me involved with like the community, the youth community, like, you know, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, stuff like that. Yeah. You know, so that was kind of my childhood. Is like, I didn't do any sports. I didn't do like anything really physical. I was drawing a lot. I was playing video games. I was distracting. I was just kind of like trying to create my own world that wasn't the world that I was living in most of the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So you didn't play sports as a kid. When did you start playing any sports?
I started I guess I wouldn't even call it really sports, but I started becoming interested in martial arts around like 17, 18, right before I left to the military. Just from the popularity of like MMA, like UFC was popular and stuff. So I remember like the two brothers I told you about, where we lived, there were a lot of like foreclosed homes. That was when like the housing bubble or whatever, like there were a ton of foreclosed homes. Yeah. And we would like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can. We would like break into like the foreclosed homes, and then we would have like fights in there, and, like, have a bunch of the neighborhood kids. And I remember like just slapping on guillotines and like, I know what this does, and just like feeling so good that I was like, you know. So like my interest kind of started there. And then when I got into the military has the Modern Army Combatives program. Okay. It's basically jiu-jitsu, but we're wearing a uniform. Got it. Yeah. And it's kind of like changed a little bit to fit like a combat scenario. So that's when for the first time, I was kind of like, whoa, like something that appears that has always been so chaotic for me. Yeah. You can systemize it and control it and make a predictable outcome. And I felt that for the first time when I went to I used to train Muay Thai. Okay. And I would just do trial classes and stuff. And like jump in for 2 weeks or something and then get out. And there was a jiu-jitsu class happening after the Muay Thai class, and I was always kind of like, you know, super self-righteous about like, I'm a striker, like I don't need to like be on the ground like that, you know. And but I was always curious, and I went over after, and I found like the smallest guy in the gym. Yep. You know, I'm like, ooh, not you, not you. Yeah. You're perfect, you know. And looking back, he wasn't that good at jiu-jitsu because he was wearing, in the moment I didn't know, but now nobody who's good would look like this. He had a white tank top and like just basketball shorts, you know, and like he might have been wearing his socks. Like he's not anybody like super skilled, but he knew more jiu-jitsu than me. And I remember him putting me in close guard. And then me thinking of Rampage Jackson versus Ricardo Arona, where he just power bombs him and like explodes his back. So I'm on my knees and I just like do my feeble imitation. I pick him up and put him on his back. Boom, I'm slamming him down. And then he lets me get away with it like twice. And he's like, hey man, like for sure, don't do that. Like this is, you know, don't do that. That's not etiquette, you know? And I was like, oh, my bad, you know? I don't know. And then he was a little bit annoyed, I could tell, because he proceeded to triangle me like 6 times in a row. Like this dude was way smaller than me. And I remember 2 things like that vividly stick out in my head. The first thing is how every time he would triangle me, I'm like, this isn't going to happen again. And it would happen again and again. And I felt like I had no power. Like I felt like I had so much power, but I don't know what he's doing. So I'm playing chess without knowing the pieces. And he's just like, I'm like, I need to learn this. And then the second thing I remember is the smell of his crotch was so bad. Like, I'm in the triangle. I'm like, this is terrible, but I can't give up. And he's just putting me there again and again, like really like punishing me and forcing an ego death on me, like in the moment. Like I'm not shit. I don't know jiu-jitsu. Like I need to learn this skill if I want to be able to do that. Right. And that kind of like really like lit a fire. So when I got to the Army, it kind of took off from there. I see. Okay. So that all started, it was while you were in the Army or before? It was a little bit before the Army. It was like my first like kind of, oh damn, that's jiu-jitsu. Like, oh, okay. And then when I went to the Army, I was training it. Like I got an opportunity to train it and like feel what it is and develop skill. So so you're in the Army. Where were you? How long were you in the Army for? I was in the Army 5 years total. Okay. I was stationed in a few different places. I was in Fort Knox for my basic training for 3 months. And then I was in Maryland for about 9 months for my advanced training. And then once I left, that's when I did a lot of my jiu-jitsu in that 9 months. Because I was like, it's kind of a college environment. So you do your school stuff and then you can do whatever you want. So I would just find little spots to train. Yeah. Only no-gi. And then after that, I went to Heidelberg, Germany. Yep. For 2 years, and I was training a lot there. That's when I started training in the gi. And I had only trained no gi up to that point. Yeah. And go ahead. What were you gonna say? I was gonna ask, what was that transition like to go from getting the basics down in no gi and then to the gi? You know, I hated it. I hated it because, and I'll tell you why. And this is why no-gi is more popular than gi. This is my 100% my opinion, because I remember this exact feeling for myself. I found this martial art. It's so freaking cool. And there's all these techniques. And then when you do no-gi, you know this person's better than you, but because of the nature of like the lack of control, you get sweaty. You can hang with somebody much better than you if you're athletic and you're a little flexible, you're a little strong. You can kind of like make it feel equal. And then when you go in the gi, it's this added layer of variables with all the jacket and control. And then suddenly you lose all that and you're like, dang, I do suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the feeling I had. But once I pushed through that and started understanding it, and I was able to kind of play the game, so much more fun. Like the toolbox is just so much bigger, like there's so many more things to do, so many ways to express your own creativity and personality, But yeah, the transition sucked, but eventually it was for the better. For sure. Now I do both. Like now I enjoy both for what they are, but I get why beginners tend to like lean towards no-gi and, I'm surprised if a beginner's like, I train both and I like the gi. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I foresee, I haven't done much gi training at all, but I have always seen it and like, okay, there is a whole new world here of things you can grab and ways to get submitted. And, I'm just trying to focus on no-gi, of course, but I guess what I'm trying to get to is you were moving around a lot training jiu-jitsu. So I imagine you were finding local gyms in the different places you were stationed.
Yes.
Including, Germany and around the world. There's kind of like this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's this stigma in jiu-jitsu of people who train at a bunch of different gyms, right?
Yeah.
I think they like you, right, to kind of be at one place and commit, and then that's how you actually progress in your belts, right?
Yeah.
So I guess how long did that type of hopping around, just because that was your life at the time, go for you before you found more of a home gym? And what was like the belt progression for you during those first 5 years or so when you were living all over the place?
Okay, so the belt progression, I'll answer that first.
Okay.
My belt progression was really weird. I trained no-gi for like about a year. And this is when I was like from Maryland going into Germany. And then this guy came for a seminar at my no-gi gym, and now we're all wearing gis, and it's so weird. And he's a brown belt from the States, like just a Gracie Baja guy. And then he promotes a bunch of us, and I'm like, I've never even worn this gi before. So now I'm a blue belt, like after a year or so. And then I feel like, I got some rank. Like I kind of want to commit to this now.
Yeah.
It actually like got me in there. And I found an actual gi club, and I started training gi for the first time. And they're just piecing me up. But I'm like understanding it, I'm like, I get it, I get it. And then I start getting really, really good in the gi to the point where everybody's beating me, and then I'm beating everybody else. Wow. And that was probably maybe 9 months later, I think I was like beating everybody in the gym in the gi. Save for like my professors, like it would be a hard fight. Like I could maybe get them sometimes, but they had been training for so long. And then they gave me my purple belt like 9 months after I got my blue belt. Oh wow! Yeah, that's relatively really fast, huh? Yeah. How long does it usually take people? Like on average, I mean, it depends. Like somebody who's committed to jiu-jitsu, doing it, let's say 5 days a week at least. 5 days a week? Woo. Okay, you're gonna get it fast. Okay, I think if you train with intention.
Yeah. Well, what is like somebody who's committed to jiu-jitsu? Like what's a normal? What would you say is the average amount of time they train in a week, and then how many years are they a white belt, and then how many years are they a blue belt?
I would say three times a week is like average. 4 times a week is like you're doing jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha.
Anything above that, you're kind of like you're becoming a mat rat, but you're not like a professional. Yeah. Like professional jiu-jitsu people, we're training like multiple times a day, every single day. Right. But I think for a normal person, it'd be about 3 to 4, and the progression would go like 1.5 to 2 years for blue, about 2 years I would say for purple, 2 years ish for brown, and then maybe another 2 or 3 for black. But things change. Like so that's like I would say 2 years is the norm. Sure. Yeah. Between every belt. Yeah. Okay. Some people go faster, some people go slower.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, what made you so good so fast? When do you think it clicked for you? I mean, was it just the passion and commitment you had to it, or were there other X factors that you could point out?
I think I never looked at jiu-jitsu like as fighting a person. I looked at it as like just techniques to beat the position their body's in. It was like a problem to solve, and I love to solve problems. And so like anytime I'm going to training, I'm really like, I'm training with intention. I've got a problem on my mind that I want to solve. And that problem usually comes from my previous training where I'm like, why did that happen? You know, I'm remembering it. I'm asking people better than me. I'm writing it in my journal. I trained with a lot of intention, and I also trained like a lot of volume. Like I remember like when I was like a white belt or blue belt, even like I would train for like hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, like after work, or like I would take a long lunch or whatever. And it would just be me and the heavy bag. I'm just doing drills on the heavy bag the whole time. Wow. And then I'll rest a little bit, and I'll do drills that I feel like would help like my passing and stuff like that. Wow. Like I was super obsessed. Wow. So I think training with intention, not like, I say like looking at it as a problem, because I think a lot of people train against the person, you know, that they're fighting, rather than the body and the problem they're representing, you know. So it kind of like clouds your problem solving, and you're not looking at things in a technical way. You're just like, I gotta fuck that guy up. You know? Like he tapped me, I'm gonna tap him. You know, for me it's like, oh, he's in reverse De La Riva, and he framed me here, and he's making space. So how do I like make him not do that? And then you start going in that direction. And then you're like, oh, I'm beating a lot of people. Like, this is cool, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So let's move ahead to, so you're out of the Army, and then you moved to San Diego. Am I missing a portion in between?
I would say the only thing was like, it was a very pivotal moment for me to go from what I was doing in the Army and my potential life path, and then choosing to go to do jiu-jitsu full time. Okay.
I'm glad you brought this up. Actually, let's talk about this, because I want to link that into the competition experience you had at that point. So I imagine you did a lot of competition when you're in the Army, right? That's
yeah. I was competing locally. Like I would never travel or fly to compete, but I would hit local tournaments, like amateurish, you know, tournaments a lot, and I would always do really well. Sometimes I would lose, you know. Definitely wasn't at the level, you know, for my belt that I would be in San Diego, but I was like good for where I was. And then so this is what happened, right? This is where I was. I had like my top secret clearance. Yep. And I was a broadcast engineer in the military. Okay. And I was set to go to White House Communications and be making like six figures like off the bat. Wow. Like contracting, like making big money. But I attended a seminar with Sean Roberts. He was like a very prolific competitor at that time. He wasn't like a world beater, but he was competing a lot, and he was good. He was really good. Yeah. Came for a seminar, and I remember it came time to roll, and I'm rolling with him, and I'm like frothing, like snot coming out of my nose, like rolling with Sean as hard as I can. Like I want to do well, you know, I want to test myself. And he just fucked me up. You know, he arm bars me, taps me. I feel like I didn't do great at all. But 2 weeks later, he messaged me, and he said something to the effect of like, hey Dom, like I think you're really good at jiu-jitsu. I think you have a lot of potential. I want you to come out and stay with me for 2 weeks and try this life, and see if you like it, see if it's something you're into. And then if you are, you can come out, train with me, and compete here in California, and I'll give you a room with me and my wife for like 6 months, he said. Wow. And that was the first time anybody had ever validated my, like, you know, I thought, oh, what if, but you know, I should probably do this.
Your potential.
Yeah. Somebody who's doing it is like, hey, you've got it. Wow. Yeah. And I was like,
that's huge.
Yeah. There was a little seed, and it just like, like I was like, oh, I could actually do this. And I took him up on the offer. I went out there, I trained, I had a great time. I was training a lot, like really pushing myself and feeling good in my, like, kind of like, because it's a little bit, it's very uncomfortable. It's a little bit miserable, but I'm like, this feels like I like this. You know, I'm getting better, you know? Right. And then, I decided that didn't work out, but I decided like, okay, I'm not going in this direction. I'm going in this direction. I'm going to sweat on people and simulate murder in my pajamas. And if I'm going to be like, it made me so happy. I really, in my head, Chris, I was like, if I take this path and I'm just broke, like, but I still am doing jiu-jitsu for my life, I'm fine, because that's the money, huge. That's huge. All the money I would have gotten from working that 6-figure job, it would have been me trying to buy my fulfillment and happiness when I already found it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going in this direction. You know? That's
amazing, dude. That resonates, I think, with what so many of the best pro athletes in any sport say, right? It's like, hey, look, I'm out here on the court. I'm playing basketball. I love this. Like the money, it's separate. Like it's amazing that I get to do this thing I love and make money and make a living out of it. But that's really the core that you need, I think, to the passion. You're in your happy place. You love it. You love it. You're not freaking out about the money in order to be successful.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So that's really cool that you got that that's a huge pivotal point for you, getting that validation from, his name was Sean
Roberts.
Yeah, Sean Roberts. And then, when you decided, this is the direction I'm going, was that linked to you moving to San Diego?
Yeah. That whole like try out like California, I went to New York too, and I trained at like Marcelo's and all these places too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I was really putting feelers out for where I wanted to be, because in my head I was like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And then the day I got out, I packed up my car and like went to San Diego.
Yeah.
And like started doing it.
Wow. And you had probably the top gyms in mind and where they were, and you kind of knew, okay, these are the places I should go to if I really want to take this super seriously.
Yeah, I picked the one that I felt like was the best. I think Atos was the best choice for me because it had a huge stable of athletes that were doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, there was Keenan, JT Torres, Andres, Nassar, Liera, like Roland, like all these huge names, and Andre too, like all these people there. And that actually did end up benefiting me a lot, because when it came to like my growth, problem solving, I would always go to every single one of them, ask them how they solved this problem, and then I would just try them and take the best one. And that's like basically how I created like the foundation for my game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And did they know who you were when you showed up?
No. And that's kind of funny because like I just rocked up, and you know, a powerhouse gym like Atos, they get fucking people coming in all the time that are like, I'm gonna train jiu-jitsu, and then they go to a few actual hard trainings and they're like, I'm gonna get out of here, like I'm not doing this anymore. And so like I feel like they were looking at me through that lens, you know, which is completely normal. But I was in there, and I was watching other people training that were doing what I wanted to do, and I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm going to train more than you. I'm going to watch what you do, and I'm going to always do more no matter what. I'm going to wake up earlier. I'm going to train more. If you're drilling after class, I'm drilling longer. Like, I'm thinking, like, I'm way behind because I was 24. I'm like, I need to outstride people. You know, I need to gain, you know, a lot of speed. So, like, that's why I'm journaling all the time. I'm always I remember there was a time, man, where I trained every single class in a day, and there were like 6 classes that day.
Wow.
I would just stay there all day. Like,
holy shit.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like, I would go to sleep at night, and I like would have restless leg syndrome. Like, I couldn't I didn't understand overtraining. I was just like, I need more jiu-jitsu in my body. Yeah, it was kind of like a wild time to think back on because of how I look at training now. But I think I needed that. I needed to like get all that volume in because I was really far behind, and I did learn very quickly. So
wow, yeah. So I'm trying to tie this, you know, into the business you've created from jiu-jitsu,
right?
But I like at that point you were still kind of just getting going with taking jiu-jitsu very seriously. Like what belt were you on when you moved here?
Purple belt.
Okay, purple. So you're pretty far along, but what were you doing to make a living at that point? I imagine you weren't making money online yet.
I wasn't working at all. Talking about how my upbringing helped me. Yeah. I grew up extremely poor, and so when I went to the military and I got a stable paycheck, I was like toxically frugal. Like I would save every single penny of my check. Dude, I remember one time I ate just potatoes, like 4 days in a row, and I got super constipated. And like, I was like, okay, I gotta at least I gotta spend money. Like I would buy a bag of potatoes, and I'm like, I can live for a few days on this and not go into that chunk of money I get. Like I saved a ton of money, a lot of money, enough to like down payment on a house, like do my whole thing. And I used that to to live and pursue my passion. I just pushed it all into that, so I could just put all my time and energy into training.
Wow.
It helped a lot.
Mm-hmm. And how long did you go with having no income?
I would say like I lasted like 2.5 years. Wow. I would say. Yeah.
Would you make like a little bit here and there from competitions?
No. No, well, okay, I would make like, maybe I'd do a competition and they'd like, here's $200.
Oh, for sure,
like,
yeah.
It's nothing consistent. Yeah, like, here's an Arby's gift card. Like, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Okay, so the 2.5 years or so, I mean, obviously you're gonna hit a wall, right? You're gonna like, all right, how is this gonna be sustainable? So you got to figure out what you're going to do to make money, but yet at the same time, you're seeing yourself progress in jiu-jitsu. What was your plan to do that during the time? What ideas were going through your head to get there?
I think once my just funds were like starting to get low, I was teaching at Atos around that time. And like the pay for teaching it's not enough to like support you in San Diego. Like it's ridiculously expensive to live here. Sure. But like I got opportunities for a lot of privates. I was competing a lot, so I was getting hit up for seminars. Okay. And I was not materialistic. I lived very frugally. So like that money went really far for me. And I would just make sure like I was keeping myself afloat while I continued to like, push into like my personal goal of like, being as good at jiu-jitsu as I could. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So you were kind of making money here and there, the seminars, coaching, basically individual training. When did you jump into the world of social media, YouTube, your instructional videos? How did that all start?
Okay. So I've always been a pretty creative person. And as soon as I got to Atos and I have videos of me at Purple Belt, I was making videos because I just like to create. Yeah. Because
you always had that artist bone in you you said you like to draw when you were a kid.
Exactly. Yeah. I have to create. So I would like comparing my method now to then, I would over edit things. It was like a thing of passion. I'd post like once every 2 months or something. I post on my Instagram like something I edited or something like that.
For sure.
So I was already like, the seed for that was already planted. I think when it really shifted was towards like a period of my career where like I was accumulating injuries and I was not able to compete. I was getting older, and I'm having to take a lot of time off. And now I'm thinking of like, okay, like damn, like my lifestyle that I want is I like trying new skills, new experiences. I never want to work for somebody. I never want to trade one for one for like time for money. Time is my most precious asset.
For sure.
How do I make this happen? What do I do? And I just loosely had that in my mind that I wanted that, and I started creating a lot of content and observing a lot of content because I take in a lot of content too. I've always been online since I was young. Looking at patterns and then applying things that I saw to my jiu-jitsu content. And I knew I already had like very high level jiu-jitsu in me. Yeah. Like I've been doing it at such a volume for so long. Like I know jiu-jitsu very well. So, and teaching has always, like, I've always been like a good teacher, but like teaching at Atos helped me really like learn to translate it like to somebody else like very well. So it just started like snowballing from there. I'm making content. I'm testing different variables. Like I'm figuring out like this whole thing of like keeping people's attention spans online in short form and in long form. Yeah. And yeah, it just like kept growing from there. Yeah.
So like, how about what did that growth look like? Let's just say, did it start with a focus on Instagram? Because you've got 250,000 followers today, right? And that's incredible. But like, how long were you kind of at a lower following? How would you describe that growth specifically? And then YouTube as well.
So I remember I hit like 33,000 while I was competing, and I wasn't posting consistently.
Got it. Okay, so you already had that base like before you really got into this stuff.
Just from competing. Wow. Just from competing, Flow Grappling posts you or something.
Gotcha.
You get a few thousand more followers. But like the growth is going like this. And then there was 1 year where I don't know what clicked in my head, but I was like, all right, I'm just gonna post every single day. that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to post every single day, no matter what it is. If it's hot fire trash, I'm throwing it out there. I don't care, but I'm going to be in people's faces every day.
For sure.
I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah.
And I started doing that, and the growth went from here to here, and it just flew. Like, I remember, dude, it was like 1 or 2 weeks, I was getting 1,000 followers every single day.
Wow.
Every single day. Like, I check, and it's like, I was at like 77, 78, 79, 81. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy. Like, when is this going to stop?
Yeah.
And once that clicked for me, I was like, okay, like I'm just going to keep this ball rolling, keep evolving, you know?
Why do you think that happened? I mean, obviously you were being super consistent in the high volume of content, but what do you think it was?
I think at the time, like the jiu-jitsu content that was being produced in short form was like a lot of competition highlights, and it was a lot of techniques from people that weren't doing what I was doing. Like, nobody who is a dedicated competitor that will learn jiu-jitsu at a really high level was ever giving it back consistently and in a digestible way. Yeah, it didn't exist. It was like a random dude in like Ohio who has a gym, and he'll show some like funky thing from bottom side control, and it'll get a bunch of views because, you know, beginners just don't know the difference. But when I started putting out a lot of content, I was giving them a ton of options from positions that were super common. I'd be like, here's 5 ways to get out of the back, and they're all really good because I'm not going to show any bullshit. I know what works. I've tested so many things just because of my way that I got good at jiu-jitsu. I'm just giving them all the stuff I learned along the way. Yeah. So I'm taking them on my journey. Like, I'm just giving them the jiu-jitsu that I've developed up here from my brain, putting it out here, but making it super easy to understand. And I think people they're like, oh my God, like, whoa, this is holy shit, you know? This is, you couldn't really find it anywhere.
So I feel like you kind of almost transformed jiu-jitsu content online. You hit it at such a key point in time where it wasn't that big. There was just a little bit out there. It was kind of almost archaic a little bit. Yeah. But you hit it at this time. You were kind of a pioneer in the sense of putting jiu-jitsu content online. You know, now I go on Instagram, discover, and every other video is a jiu-jitsu tutorial. Yeah. Right? That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild feeling.
And was YouTube like a similar experience, journey, growth?
I would say YouTube always, it's not going to be that way forever, but when I first started posting on it, it was always just like passion project. Like, I would like pour my soul into editing one video because I liked it. I liked the technique I was showing. It was something I hit in competition. I thought it was sick. I would edit it to the beat, make it look so freaking cool. Yeah. And then I post it, and people are like I could never do that consistently. Like, it was way too, like, the time to like return is a lot of work. Yeah. But I like doing it, so I would do it anyway. And people would just get this like gold dropped on them, like this person who's like taking jiu-jitsu to such a high level in their life, and they are also able to like create this, like, they're artistic and they just drop it. People are like, this is the best tutorial I've ever seen. You have the best content. But I wouldn't post consistently because, like, I can't do it all the time, you know? So, like, going forward for me, YouTube, I'm gonna get it down to where, like, the quality reflects what I like, my own values, you know. But it's also as valuable as I feel like it should be. You know, it's gotta be a balance. But yeah,
for sure. Well, it's like that makes sense, especially now after you've built this massive base of content, and you've built this reputation that you have now of having high quality content. So, okay, back to the business progression, your career, making money. Yeah. You grow the social followings online. What came first? Did you start getting attention from sponsors from that, or did you start to, when did like the courses and instructionals you've created online that you sell come into play compared to sponsors?
The courses came first. So like I was always vaguely aware of funneling online. I had messed around with it earlier, like with other projects and stuff like that. And so I knew that's kind of like what I needed to do. I didn't know exactly how to do it. Yeah. And I started testing different courses that I made on my own. And I actually remember going to my friend Leah Junior's school in Denver, and I was teaching like a flying knee cut, like a really, like, it's a solid technique I use all the time. Yeah. And it solves a problem, like a super common problem in jiu-jitsu. So it's like the perfect pain point. Yeah. of people pulling guard on you. It was a great answer. I had a ton of competition footage, like to validate it. Like it was like the perfect, product to push.
Yeah.
And I just recorded a class, and I set up my iPhone tripod there.
Yeah.
Caught it all. I recorded the students like doing specific training and trying it. And I had this in mind, like I'm going to create a product, off of this. I'm going to try to use some of my reach. I think I was at like maybe 70,000 or something at that point.
Sure.
And I go back home, and I throw it on Vimeo and label it all. I create cool thumbnails and stuff. I had a little highlight promo reel for short form content.
Nice.
Like everything, I had everything packaged and ready to go. I had video analysis on there too. It was pretty sick.
Yeah.
And I underpriced it so hard because I was like so scared to I feel like that's a thing that a lot of entrepreneurs will hold them back, at least for
sure.
me, is like, I don't know if people will pay this. Like, I don't want to over like, make it cost too much.
Yeah.
I think I put it for like $20, and it's still $20 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still $20. I'm gonna redo it. I'm gonna do it much better and make it like to where I feel like it's worth more.
Right.
But yeah, it's still $20. But I posted that thing out there, dude, and I started like pushing it, and I think I've made like almost maybe 11K from it.
Wow.
Like and I'm not doing anything. Like I already posted it out there. Like I already did all the content. I just like kind of like, oh, here's the post that did well.
Yeah.
Let me throw that up there, and see what happens. And then people will just buy it. And I think that was the first time where I was like, oh my God, like I can really make money from this, like, okay, this is like, I get it, like that was my first test. And then I just kept making it better, making new courses.
Yep. New courses.
Had more confidence in my pricing, so I hit a price point that was higher.
Yeah. I saw you went up to like what, 77 or
77. Yeah. 77.
Okay.
So, and I'm still like optimizing it and learning. I'm learning how to write copy. Like I'm learning like all the other little pieces for this online business to get it optimized. I'm learning it myself. And my goal is to eventually give my knowledge to somebody else that can do it for me. And my energy will just be spent for like creativity, ideas, and like doing jiu-jitsu. And I can just kind of give it out.
For sure. Yeah.
Get it going,
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that vision of offloading a lot of this work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So where are you in that journey right now? Because, are you still doing most of it yourself or all of it?
I'm doing most of it myself. The offloading that I've done so far. So I got more funding from my sponsor. So I've hired a videographer now. So my next goal is to grow YouTube. I want to grow YouTube up to like 100K, hopefully.
Nice. Okay.
Not by the end of this year, but hopefully by like,
sure,
second quarter next year or something maybe. And I just want all the editing and shooting to be done by him. And I'll be able to be consistent. All I have to do is come up with an idea and then show up, and he does everything, and he's great. His name is Chance. He shoots a lot of our videos within our group, He does great work. So that's the first part of it. A second part I think is like the next part I'd like to do is having some kind of assistant to like teach them how to create short form the way that I create it, like what to look for, like how to like, I think that's going to be a long process. Getting somebody up to speed for that. For sure. That might be like kind of end game. I don't know. But so, okay. Like, do you have any strategy in mind that you're willing to share about how you're going to grow, for example, up to 100K followers on YouTube? Like, are you going to change anything you're doing with the type of content you've been making? I think, my strategy is just to be very consistent. So I'm going to be posting, one long form video per week above 10 minutes. So I get the good ad payments, Yep. And then, I'm going to be doing, one short form every day. I have all my like short form downloaded like in a file. So like I could just use stuff that the YouTube like market hasn't seen and put it up. I've been doing that for a while. I'm just not consistent with it. And then, I think the biggest thing that stopped me from growing my YouTube is I didn't understand like human psychology and attention span as far as somebody like looking for like dopamine online. You know what I mean? It's a very like, it's a it's a thing you have to learn, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And you have to learn it. I feel like you have to learn it through absorbing it yourself and paying attention to what causes you to respond. Like,
absolutely.
If you're going through like content and you find yourself clicking something or like looking something up or like feeling an emotion or feeling like, oh, I need to know what's going to happen. These are all variables that I and myself pay close attention to. And I can feel it if I watch my own content, if it's going to do that. So I'm going to be making this long form and I'm going to be trying to hit those rather than just like, here's a high step. You know, it doesn't really hit a wide audience. You know?
Right.
So I think once I get that down, because a lot of people, I've seen a few people that have done it very well in jiu-jitsu. One guy in particular, he's a 10th planet guy. He's a purple belt. He's doing a great job. I'm definitely going to steal his content idea because it's so good. I've always wanted to do it. He just goes to like Muscle Beach, like beaches in LA and stuff. He sets down mats.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah, and he holds up a sign. He's like, tap me for you know, something like that.
Dude, that's awesome.
Dude, it worked. And he's a charisma. He's funny as hell. He's such a good personality. So I think he has 3 of those videos. Like those videos get like 500,000, 1 million views.
Wow.
Like if you hit the right topic that will reach the like wide audience but connect them to jiu-jitsu or your niche, you've struck gold, you know? So that's one. I know that's one, you know?
That'd be hilarious and awesome to see you do something like that.
I know. I would love to do it. And then watch friggin' like Victor Hugo comes out or something. One of my old like competitor, like nemesis comes out. That would actually be hilarious. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to reel it back to when did sponsors come into play? Obviously you get, you know, ads and stuff online. Your instructional videos, you said, came first, but what about like your big core sponsors? I mean, is like Electrum one of them, right? Like, how do they approach you?
So Electrum has sponsored me since I was like a purple belt, brown belt, you know.
Got it.
It's ran by my friend Alex Sterner.
Okay.
So like we kind of have like a, you know, we're like business partners, collaborators, you know, we share ideas, we put energy into each other's businesses, and it's a sponsorship, but I feel like it's also like a partnership, you know? And then King's Kimonos is my other sponsor. They're a gi brand. They sponsored me for a very long time.
Okay.
And the transition between like going from the value I had before I started gaining a lot of reach to after, that was an interesting like challenge, you know. And I feel like we reached a spot where like everybody's happy. I'm very happy. I hope I feel like they're very happy. They should be, like, because the reach I'm getting and the engagement I'm getting for any brand is like incredible. Like you have to pay way more than I'm asking for to get it. So I feel like it was a no-brainer for them too. But when I started understanding I had a lot of leverage was when I was not reaching out to anyone. I was just doing my thing, growing my reach, evolving, being super consistent. I was getting hit up by every brand. Like every brand was hitting me up to the point where I'm like, I don't even know like what to do with all this. Like, I don't know how to like negotiate this. And that's where Alex came in. Like he's been a business owner for a while. He's failed a bunch of times, learned a bunch of times. So he's just like telling me, you know, exactly how to go about it. And eventually, like, I got a sponsorship that reflected my value. So, yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, especially in the sport of jiu-jitsu where it's, you know, there's not like a ton of money flying around. You know, that's one thing, you know, that comes up, and it's just so interesting to dig into how that business works. And, you know, there's people out there, I think, who really help the sport. People like Joe Rogan, who have a massive audience, and he's a big part, you know, big part of that community. But like just taking somebody else who's, you know, a big influencer in the jiu-jitsu space, right? Like Gordon Ryan, let's take him for example. You know, he's obviously he's probably got around 1 million followers on Instagram, and he's got his sponsors like Future Kimonos or whatever, right? Like what is, you know, where he's at compared to like how you make a living through jiu-jitsu, what would you say the differences are between somebody who's at that level versus like where you are, which is obviously very far along?
I feel like our audiences view us differently. I think his audience views him as like he's teaching, but his draw is like he is the best at no-gi. He is the best. Like if you train jiu-jitsu and you're into it, you point and you say, that's the guy who's like the best, you know?
Got it. Yeah.
So like anybody who's going to learn, they're going to want to learn what that guy's doing. Yeah. You know, for me, I feel like my audience is more like, oh, this person can teach me jiu-jitsu. You know, he knows a lot of jiu-jitsu. He has competed. He's done it at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
And also he's willing to, and also very capable of giving me that jiu-jitsu, you know, where I feel like a lot of competitors, they're good at competing. They're not good at like giving the jiu-jitsu.
I see.
So I don't know. I feel like my long-term like identity online, I would like to be known as someone who's spreading jiu-jitsu knowledge, a source for jiu-jitsu knowledge. I want to continue my own growth in every part of jiu-jitsu so that I can like articulate it and understand it at the same level that I understand my like favorite best positions. Yeah. You know,
that's a great answer. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So, so I want to kind of look at the journey overall from a more of a business entrepreneurial standpoint. But you know, your career as basically a pro athlete as well, right? What would you point to as the biggest challenge you've experienced? And it can be a general or a specific point in time as far as your answer.
For competition or for business?
No, that's good. Yeah, let me clear that up. I kind of said both, but I want to focus on really the business side of it. Yeah.
Okay. I think honestly the biggest challenge was understanding self-limiting beliefs are truly the only thing holding me back from the things that I want.
I love that.
Everything else is achievable through like consistency, experimentation, being willing to fail. Yeah. But you'll never take those steps if your own self-limiting beliefs stop you from taking those actions, making those failures, learning those from those mistakes. That's the biggest thing, honestly. And I'm still learning that lesson today. And it's helpful that I have the group that I do because we all check each other. When we notice one of us is having a self-limiting belief, my partner Heather, Alex, and myself, we will be the other two that's like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, this is a self-limiting belief. Now you have to do it. Like, we'll just harass each other until we push through it. So that's extremely helpful if you can surround yourself with a group that will help you push through that. For me, that was the biggest obstacle. For sure. Yeah.
How could you give me more specifically what that meant for you? Like, what was an example of a self-limiting belief?
Like, self-limiting belief, like one example would be, okay, I did the knee cut course. My self-limiting belief that I couldn't get more from my course, so I undervalued. Got it. You know. Okay. Me not believing I could get my value from my sponsor if I didn't have somebody there to say like, you're a fucking idiot, like this is a self-limiting belief, go for it, you know. I might not have done it, you know. I might have just pulled myself back and kept it safe. You know what I mean? Yeah, just understanding that like if you turn that voice off and you're just like an android and you're like my goal is to do that, these are the things I need to do consistently over time, and you just do it, you will achieve it. It'll happen. The only thing stopping you is like your own voice saying you can't. You know.
Yeah, great answer, man. And I think that actually might relate into this next question, which is something I ask at the end of every podcast I do. The question is, what is an entrepreneurial life hack that is against the mainstream belief? Something you've picked up that's unique to you. What you just said can almost qualify as an answer to that, but I'm just curious if you had anything else in mind from your experience as an entrepreneur.
That's a hard question because what I just said would have been probably.
You don't have to force something. I mean, if that qualifies as that, that's a great answer.
Okay. The other life hack I would say is you don't have to be business partners sharing money, but surrounding yourself with a few other people, telling them your plans and like letting them in and letting them kind of like influence you positively, extremely helpful. Like it's so much more helpful and way easier than doing it on your own, because then it's just you fighting those beliefs, you know? I've noticed like since I've made this like partnership with like my partner and my friend Alex, productivity has gone up, like success has gone up. Like there's identifiable moments where I would not have achieved had I not been in that group and been supported. So just having a group that can support you in that way. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, great answer. For real. And it reflects that idea of you are the 5 people you surround yourself by the most, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, dude, what a story. Dude, thanks for sharing this.
You're
love
welcome.
this.
Yeah, it was nice to get it out. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with the audience about your journey and things you've learned?
I don't think so. I feel like that was mostly it. Yeah. I think that was mostly it.
Nice.
Yeah, I got it all out there.
That's awesome, man. Well, another thing I like to ask everybody at the end is, just so I'm expanding this network effect for this podcast, I've met so many amazing people through this, is there anyone you have in mind from your network who you think I should have on this show? Somebody who's building some sort of brand or an entrepreneur in some way?
Yeah, you should interview my friend Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex Sterner.
Cool.
Yeah, business owner, entrepreneur, really good brain. Delete that as well. I think you'd be a great person to interview on your podcast for sure.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
Sweet. Well, tell people, how can people find you online? You've got an amazing online presence. How can people find your courses and your videos?
If you look up on any platform except for Twitter, I don't use Twitter.
Okay.
Dubious, Dubious, Dom with an underscore without. You'll find me. That's how you find me. Yeah. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Dom, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Chris.
Honor to have you on. And I'm very excited about this because I'm just so fascinated about this new world I'm integrating myself into with jiu-jitsu, and it's just an amazing sport, amazing activity, and you're helping a lot of people, and including me. So thanks for everything you're doing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Absolutely, brother. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining our conversation today on the Nichols&Dimez Show. Please check out and follow my podcast Instagram at Nichols&Dimezshow. I'd love to have you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube. You can also find it on my website. I welcome and encourage any feedback you can share in the reviews so I can continue to improve and develop the show. Thanks again, and see you next time.